Thanks for joining me. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday season. I actually took a break and visited my friends in downtown LA. During the trip, I was struck by how many people were experiencing homelessness that I saw wandering in the streets in need of help. We're a far cry from the position of downtown LA, though I couldn't help but compare how we treat people here in Montgomery County. We've worked hard to build a strong network through our Department of Health and Human Services to help residents with homelessness prevention and through struggles with mental health. Still, we see people in crisis every day. I hate to think how our nation would be without the services we've worked hard to coordinate for our residents in need. It is painful to see little kids sleeping out in the streets without a home. And why would we be in that position? I think you know the answer. It's this federal administration. Maryland lost nearly 25,000 jobs last year, according to the newly released data from the State Bureau of Labor Statistics. The jobs didn't get lost. These were jobs that were shut down by the federal government, and Maryland is the most targeted state in the country. Our state absorbed the most job losses in the nation, including more than 10,000 in October and November, when deferred resignations were finally realized. Decisions made by the federal government make it challenging to maintain the kind of compassionate and thoughtful programs that support our residents. One of the worst and most inhumane examples of what the Trump administration is planning is a $7.5 million cut to our permanent supportive housing program, a program that gets people off the streets and into housing with supportive services. These people cannot manage their lives and need help, but the administration's approach is to eliminate the funding, put them back on the streets, and provide no housing or other supports unless they decide to get a job and go get treatment. People with serious mental health issues are unlikely to get jobs or agree to enter mandatory programs because of the issues they're dealing with. So unless they do that, they become homeless. Aside from the fact that we don't have the mental health workers or the facilities to treat people in, and the federal government has no intention of providing the funding to build the facilities we would need, this is going to result in the loss of housing to over 800 individuals and families. Imagine 800 more people on our streets in the blink of an eye with no food, shelter, or medicine. This is the president's plan to end homelessness, and it's insane. It's inhumane. Imagine the impact on our social environment that would come from putting 800 people on the street. And then there are the cutbacks to Medicaid, SNAP, and other proposals to limit the effectiveness of the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Money is harder to come by for families struggling the most to put food on the table or keep a roof over their heads. We will need the state's help in making up for some of the losses the federal government is responsible for. As these burdens pile up, it will be, frankly, increasingly hard for us to deal with. These challenges lay the groundwork for the state lawmakers in 2026 General Assembly, which convenes next Wednesday, January 14th. Montgomery County is well represented, with many of our own elected leaders holding key positions of power. Senators Ben Cramer and Delegate Julie Polakovich-Carr once again lead a delegation that includes the returning House Speaker, David Moon, and the new chair of the Ways and Means Committee, Delegate Janelle Wilkins. On the Environment Transportation Committee, Mark Corman will remain the chair and Ann Kaiser will become the vice chair. The Joint Committee on Legislative Ethics will now be led by Bonnie Collison. And on Economic Matters, Lord Charkoudian has been appointed as the new vice chair. There are several new leadership roles for delegates representing Montgomery County, including more than a dozen subcommittee positions and party leadership roles. On the Senate side, Nancy King serves as a majority leader, Brian Feldman is chair, and Cheryl Kagan is vice chair of the Education, Energy, and Environment Committee. Will Smith and Jeff Wallstreicher are chair and vice chairs of the Judicial Proceedings Committee. I'm optimistic that this group can help us modernize an economy and the way we collect revenue, because we've seen over the last year that Montgomery County is not recession-proof. We have never been recession-proof, and we're feeling it now more than ever. We need investment in transportation to help fuel the kind of growth we need. All we have to do is look at what Virginia's done to see how infrastructure improvements help attract businesses. We'll also need this to help us fund the new North Bethesda Metro entrance, renovations to the Lake Forest Transit Center, and continued support for our transition to a zero-emission bus fleet. The state will also be a key partner in advancing school construction, business development, and aiding small businesses that are continuing to be impacted by the Purple Line construction. Our residents who are at risk of being priced out of their homes need protection, and our historic efforts to build affordable housing will also need to benefit from continued state support. Though we're hopeful about meaningful change in our community, we also know the President stands opposed to diversity, equity, and helping the less fortunate. He has absolutely no respect for human life and has no regard for people in the community. He's focused on making his rich friends richer and dismantling the kind of social safety net that has given people hope and opportunities for decades. Social safety nets were put in place to undo, in this case, centuries of discrimination and segregation. Failing those communities now, when the impacts of those policies still remain, is not who we are as a country. Trump is probably the worst leader we've seen in the White House in nearly a century. Richard Nixon was more progressive in some of his actions than Donald Trump, and that's a frightening thought. It's why our work on the local and state level is so important. Our focus must remain on how we best help the people within our limited means. On a brighter note, I want to share some exciting progress we've made toward climate goals and why it matters for all of us. We launched our climate action plan in 2021 with a bold commitment: reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 80% by 2027 and reach 100% by 2035. We all deserve cleaner air, healthier communities, and a sustainable future for our children. Since then, we've taken big steps forward. This week, we shared this year's Climate Action Plan report at an event at the National Capital Trolley Museum in Colesville. It is home to one of the 3 local weather stations that are being set up in partnership with the University of Maryland and the Mesonet network. Mesonet stations measure air and soil temperatures, humidity, soil moisture, wind speed, atmospheric pressure, precipitation, and other environmental factors. The stations provide emergency management officials with real-time local weather information, increasing the lead time of extreme weather warnings. In the case of emergencies like tornadoes and flash floods, an increase in warning lead time of just a few minutes can potentially save lives and property. Soil temperature gauges can help predict when snow and ice are likely to accumulate. The data gives us a better sense of changing weather in more places across the county, which will help us prepare better for emergencies. We live in a world where our environmental situation is in crisis, and being unprepared without the right information put lives in danger. Over the next year, we will add a 4th device to the network, and we plan to install similar versions, 2 smaller versions of this device in our more densely populated areas. We're transitioning our entire bus fleet to zero-emission vehicles. Today, 52 electric buses are already on the road. By 2035, every bus will be clean and quiet. We made ride-on fare free for everyone because public transportation should be accessible to all. We passed building energy performance standards to make our buildings more efficient and reduce emissions. When considering the impact of buildings and transportation, they account for more than 90% of the greenhouse gas emissions created in Montgomery County. We're also investing in clean energy, planting thousands of trees, and building microgrids to ensure critical services continue to run during emergencies. And we're also committed to justice. For too long, policies have favored wealthier communities and forced minority communities with the least resources to deal with the consequences of pollution or environmental negligence on their own. That's a past we're not going to repeat. We are ensuring the benefits reach every community by improving energy efficiency and low-income housing, expanding outreach, and creating programs to get everyone a chance to participate. Some of our programs are targeted on helping businesses make these changes because we recognize that this is not a free ride and that there are some businesses that are going to need support in order to do this. And that's why we've put money aside to help accomplish this goal. We know that achieving our goals is not as simple as the government stepping in and solving the problem. There's a lot we can do with our buildings and our vehicles, our policies, and our incentives. But, and this is the crux of the problem, unless changes take place at the individual level, I mean you and me, we won't achieve our goals. All of us need to be part of the change by reducing energy use and using cleaner energy. What the government does with its own buildings and vehicles will not get us where we need to go. I know that most of you know that climate change is both real and a threat to our quality of life. It will remain long after we're gone, unless we put the brakes on going down the path we're on now, and our children will suffer the consequences of that path. When I was a kid, I saw the Smokey the Bear public information campaign. Only you can prevent forest fires. Today, we're in the same position on whether or not we create a climate change disaster. And the right response to that has not changed, because only you can prevent the climate change disaster. Think of the Climate Action Plan as renovating our home. We started with the plan to implement 80 recommendations and have either made significant progress or completed 63 of those actions. That's more than 75% of what we set out to accomplish, but there's a lot more to do. We're not just making minor cosmetic changes, we're rewiring the entire system to make it stronger, cleaner, and fairer. Together, we can build a future where every resident thrives, and we all benefit from a starting place that's greener than it was before. This week, the Centers for Disease Control, which probably ought to be renamed to be the Center for Disease Expansion, made major changes to the child immunization schedule, a series of recommendations for parents regarding childhood vaccines. This is something I first discussed in December when rolling back the vaccine schedule for children to align with the standards set by Denmark seemed imminent. A few weeks passed without any changes, but the Trump administration still went ahead. So now they only recommend 11 vaccines for children, down from 17, representing a significant dismantling of evidence-based public health policy. The agency no longer recommends vaccinations against hepatitis A, hepatitis B, influenza, meningitis, RSV, and rotavirus, except for high-risk children. We are disregarding the results that have been effective for 30 years and aligning with the standards of a country that's nothing like ours. The administration frames this as a move to align with the international consensus on vaccines. But what we're setting up is a dangerous situation that will fall on our emergency rooms and hospitals to fix, with children's lives at risk. How did we arrive here? Not by following the science or the studies that have been done into the effectiveness of childhood vaccines over many years. We're relying on political appointees, a board of anti-vaxxers and Secretary Kennedy, who is both an anti-vaxxer and utterly and completely unqualified to fill any job that has anything to do with the public health responsibility. He serves to please the president, and many like him remain in positions they're not qualified for. The American Academy of Pediatrics strongly opposes these changes. The Maryland State Department of Health agrees and will continue to recommend the same vaccination schedule that has proven effective for many years. Our Department of Health and Human Services will adopt the same approach as it treats residents moving forward, recommending the full spectrum of vaccinations for children in place before these unnecessary changes are made. Montgomery County is helping residents start the new year on a healthy and affordable note, but once again allowing free access to fitness. This is something we started in 2023, and I'm glad to see more and more people taking advantage of this community resource. County residents can continue to use recreation fitness centers at no cost. The free access applies to gym facilities, but does not include aquatic centers. Residents can sign up at any of our 22 recreation centers. Make sure you bring your ID and a current utility bill to prove your residency before getting started. The Department of Recreation offers free and low-cost classes and activities for all ages, providing opportunities to stay active, learn new skills, and connect with the community. Residents can view free offerings and register through Active Montgomery. It can all be found at montgomerycountymd.gov/REC. Finally, I'd like to remind everyone of some important changes to note as the new year begins. The new plastic bag ban is now in effect. Most stores will no longer provide plastic carryout bags, with some exceptions made for businesses such as restaurants and dry cleaners. Paper bags will now cost 10 cents, with half of the cost going to the retailer and the other half supporting the county's Water Quality Protection Fund. The goal is to reduce plastic waste, protect our streams, and encourage the use of reusable bags that you take with you to the store. Learn more at montgomerycountymd.gov/bag. Additionally, several Maryland state laws are now in place, including one that requires barbers, hairstylists, and other related professionals to complete a 1-hour domestic violence awareness training. This training helps them identify signs of domestic violence and connect victims to the support services more effectively. Children in need of specialized care will face fewer bureaucratic delays and health insurers will be required to cover additional tests to detect early signs of heart disease. Uber and Lyft drivers now have better tools to track and understand their earnings. Additionally, families living in inherited homes will receive new tax protections to help them remain in those homes. And don't forget that Martin Luther King Jr. Day is Monday, January 19th. The county will hold its annual celebration birthday tribute on Sunday, January 18th at the Strathmore starting at 4 p.m. The theme for this year is Every Kind of People, a blueprint to unity. Then on the holiday itself, we will welcome everyone to sign up for the MLK Day of Service. This year, the county is hosting a volunteer fair from 9:30 a.m. to noon in partnership with Delta Sigma Theta sorority. The latest podcast episode of Make a Difference featured Faith McNeil, manager of the Montgomery County Volunteer Center, talking about the MLK Day efforts.
The Volunteer Center has a relationship with over 1,900 organizations here in Montgomery County. And so typically we work with those organizations to identify our community needs, and then we will build projects around those needs. So you'll see projects that benefit folks that are without homes. You'll see projects that benefit children in foster care. You'll see projects that benefit folks that are looking for food. So it really just depends on the community need, and then we help to build those projects and host them on our day of service.
If you'd like to learn more about groups you can join as a volunteer, visit montgomeryserves.org. So that's a wrap for today. I hope you had a great weekend, and I'll be back again next week. Take care, and I hope we all weather this storm.